My name is Sophia Davis. And for as long as I can remember, I believed in love. I believed in the kind of love that was supposed to last forever, the kind that never wavers, never fades. That was before Ethan came into my life. Ethan and I met in college. He was the kind of guy who made you feel like everything would be okay even when your world was falling apart. He had these deep, thoughtful eyes, a smile that could make you forget any bad day. And I fell for him instantly and completely. We spent every possible moment together. Late-night study sessions that turned into early morning coffee runs. Walks around the campus when the air was crisp, and the world felt like it was just ours. I could have sworn that we were a perfect match, like we were always meant to find each other. He made me laugh in ways I never knew were possible. We had this unspoken connection, where one glance was all it took to understand exactly what the other was thinking. Every moment with him felt like the beginning of something extraordinary. I remember the first time he told me he loved me. It was on a rainy evening in the little cafe we used to visit. The rain tapped against the windows, creating a rhythm that made everything feel more intimate. He looked at me, his face serious but soft, and said, "Sophia, I love you. I don't think I could ever imagine my life without you in it." And I believed him. With every fiber of my being, I believed him. I told him I loved him too, and for a moment I felt invincible. We talked about the future constantly. About getting an apartment together after graduation, starting careers, traveling the world, building a life. Everything felt so certain. There was no room for doubt in my mind. I had everything I ever wanted, and it was all right there with him. But as the months passed, things started to shift. Not all at once, but gradually, like the first cracks appearing in a perfectly painted wall. I didn't notice at first. How could I? I was too busy being happy. But Ethan started spending more time away from me. Work got more demanding. He seemed distracted, always lost in thought. And then there were the late nights. Nights when he didn't come home until well after midnight, his excuse always the same. I was at the office working on a big project. Just needed to get it done. I believed him. I trusted him. But deep down there was this nagging feeling. A feeling that something wasn't quite right, even though he insisted everything was fine. But I didn't know then, the storm was already brewing. I couldn't see it coming, not in my wildest dreams. The love that felt so perfect, so unbreakable, was about to be shattered. Things never stay perfect forever, do they? Even the most beautiful flowers eventually wilt. And so did my relationship with Ethan. I wish I could say it happened all at once. That I could point to a single moment when everything changed. But life isn't like that. It's made up of 1,000 little moments that add up to something you can't ignore anymore. It started with the late nights. First I brushed them off. He was busy with work. He was climbing the career ladder, making a name for himself. I understood. I always understood. But then it became more than just late nights. He started getting distant. The little things we used to share, our inside jokes, the random texts throughout the day, started to fade. I didn't feel like I was his priority anymore. And maybe I was just being paranoid, but I could feel him pulling away from me. One night after he got home late, I found him in our bedroom, sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at his phone. He didn't even notice me walk in. I stood there for a moment watching him. Something was different. He was distracted, his face tense, his brow furrowed. When he finally looked up at me, his smile didn't reach his eyes. "Everything okay?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. He nodded quickly, too quickly. "Yeah. Just work stuff. You know how it is." But I didn't know. Not anymore. I wanted to ask him more, to press him for answers. But I didn't want to seem like I was interrogating him. Instead, I told myself I was just being silly. I trusted Ethan. He would never betray me. Right? Over the next few weeks, the cracks in our relationship grew bigger. It wasn't just the late nights anymore. It was the sudden bursts of anger, the cold silences, the absence of affection. I tried to talk to him about it, but each time he brushed me off. "It's nothing, Sophia. You're imagining things." But I wasn't imagining things. I could feel it. I could feel him slipping away from me, and no matter how hard I tried to hold on, I couldn't stop it. And then one afternoon I found the text message. It wasn't anything dramatic. No heart emojis, no flirtatious comments. Just a simple message from a number I didn't recognize. I miss you. I'll be at the usual spot tonight. Same time. My heart stopped. I stood frozen in the living room holding my phone, staring at the words like they were poison. My hands trembled as I reread it. Over and over. I felt my world start to tilt. Was this it? Was this the crack that would shatter everything we had built? I knew I should confront him, demand answers. But I didn't. Instead, I deleted the message, shoved the phone in my pocket, and pretended like I hadn't seen it. Pretended like I didn't know what it meant. But deep down I knew. I knew Ethan was hiding something. And the worst part? I wasn't sure if I wanted to know what it was. I wasn't looking for answers. But answers have a way of finding you when you least expect them. Started with a simple thing. A little thing, really. A small detail that felt like it didn't matter. But in the end it mattered more than I could have ever imagined. I was at work sorting through some emails when my phone buzzed on the desk. It was a message from Ethan. But it wasn't the usual, "How's your day?" or "I miss you." No, this time it was different. It was a forwarded message. A picture. A picture of Ethan with Lily. The woman I had trusted. The one who I had considered my best friend. I had no idea what it meant at first. But the second I saw the message, my heart sank. The picture was from a night they had spent together. A night when Ethan had told me he was working late. My hands shook as I stared at the photo. Ethan was smiling at Lily. They were close, too close, as if there had been something between them all along. My throat went dry. I felt a sharp, painful squeeze in my chest, and for the first time in months I couldn't breathe. I hadn't been looking for this. But now that it was here, there was no denying it. They had been seeing each other, behind my back. I don't even remember how I made it through the rest of the day. My mind kept replaying that picture over and over again as if it was some kind of cruel joke. I wanted to scream, to throw my phone across the room, but I didn't. I just stared. And then I went numb. The hardest part. Realizing that all this time I had been blind. Blind to the signs. Blind to the truth. That night I couldn't sleep. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, my mind racing with questions I didn't have answers to. How long had this been going on? Had Ethan really loved me? Or had I just been another chapter in his endless string of lies? I needed to confront him. I had to know the truth even if it shattered me. But before I could work up the courage, something inside me broke. It wasn't just the betrayal anymore. It was everything. The lies, the doubt, the fear. And as I sat there in the dark, all I could think was, how could he do this to me? How could I not see it? By the time Ethan walked through the door later that night, I had made up my mind. I wasn't going to pretend anymore. I wasn't going to be his fool. The hardest part wasn't finding out. It wasn't even the pain of the betrayal. No, the hardest part was making the decision to face him. To ask him the questions I was terrified to hear the answers to. That night when Ethan walked through the door, my heart was pounding so loud I thought he could hear it. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the phone in his face and make him feel what I was feeling. But I didn't. I just stood there. In the middle of our living room. My chest tight, my hands shaking. But I didn't let him see it. "We need to talk," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Ethan looked at me, his brow furrowing. "What's wrong?" he asked, his voice already defensive. He could tell something was off, but he didn't know how much. "Don't lie to me, Ethan." My words came out sharp like a slap. "Don't pretend like you haven't been hiding something from me." He opened his mouth to protest, but I held up my hand to stop him. "I found the text," I said, my voice cold, steady. "I saw the picture. I know about you and Lily." His face went pale, his jaw tightening, and for the first time in months, I saw him struggle to find words. "Sophia," he began, but his voice cracked, betraying the calm facade he was trying to put up. "Listen, it's not what you think." "Not what I think?" I repeated, my voice rising now. Every ounce of anger I had been holding in for so long coming to the surface. How long has this been going on, Ethan? How long were you lying to me? He stepped forward, his hands raised as if trying to calm me down. But I wasn't having it. I wasn't scared anymore. I'm not angry because you slept with her, I said, my voice growing stronger. I'm angry because you never thought I deserved the truth. I took a deep breath. You've been hiding your whole life from me, Ethan. And I stopped myself, swallowing the lump in my throat. I loved you. I trusted you. He didn't say anything at first. He just stood there, eyes wide, looking lost. Then slowly he shook his head. I was trying to protect you, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I didn't want to hurt you. I never meant to hurt you. I let out a bitter laugh. A sound that didn't even feel like it belonged to me anymore. Protect me? By lying? By keeping secrets from me? My voice wavered as the truth started to hit me. You didn't protect me, Ethan. You protected yourself. You protected your guilt. He stepped back. Like I had slapped him. I didn't mean for any of this to happen, he said. It just got out of hand. I took a step toward him. I wanted to scream. I wanted to hurt him the way he had hurt me. But all I could do was ask one last question. Why, Ethan? Why didn't you tell me the truth? Why didn't you just be honest with me? He was silent. And in that silence I realized something. He wasn't sorry. Not really. He was sorry he got caught. He was sorry it all fell apart. You don't get to hurt me and expect me to forgive you, I said. My voice firm, final. I loved you, Ethan. But this is where I walk away. For a moment he didn't move. He just stood there staring at me like I was a stranger. And in a way I was. Slowly I turned and walked away from him. I walked out of the room, out of our life. Leaving behind the love I once thought was unbreakable. I didn't cry. Not then. But I knew deep down I had just closed the door on everything we had built. And for the first time, I felt free. Heartbreak is a funny thing. It doesn't come with a clear path or a neat little ribbon tied around it. It just happens. And when it happens, it feels like your world is shattering, piece by piece. The days after confronting Ethan felt like I was drowning in a fog. I couldn't see clearly, couldn't breathe. Each step I took felt heavier than the last. The silence between us became unbearable. We didn't talk much after that night. There was nothing left to say, really. He would still come home late like always. But now when he looked at me there was something different in his eyes. Not guilt, but regret. And it hurt more than I thought it would. I wanted to scream at him. I wanted to shake him and tell him how much he had destroyed me. But all I could do was stand there watching him, feeling the distance between us stretch wider and wider. That was when I realized, I didn't just feel betrayed. I felt invisible. Like all the love I had given him, all the trust, the future I had imagined had just been erased. Like none of it mattered. I kept asking myself, how did I miss this? How did I not see it coming? I had spent so many nights lying next to him, thinking everything was perfect, thinking he was the one. But he wasn't. Not anymore. The worst part was how much I still loved him. Even after everything, I still found myself hoping he'd come to his senses. Hoping he'd tell me it was all a mistake. But I knew it wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. And that's what killed me the most. It wasn't the affair. It wasn't the lies. It was the fact that he chose her. He chose someone else over me. And I had to live with that. I started spending more time away from home. I couldn't bear to be in that apartment, sitting in the same places where we had shared so many happy moments. The bed felt too big without him. The couch felt too empty. I spent hours at the coffee shop trying to lose myself in the noise of the world around me. Trying to ignore the pain that was eating away at me piece by piece. But no matter how hard I tried, it was always there, lurking beneath the surface. Then came the day when I saw them. Ethan and Lily, walking down the street together, hand in hand, laughing like they had never known a broken heart. It felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. I didn't stop them. I didn't yell. I didn't even cry. I just stood there watching them, feeling like I was fading away. When they turned the corner and disappeared from sight, I finally broke. Not in front of them, not in front of Ethan. But when I was alone, when I was in the safety of my own apartment, the tears came. The kind of tears that burn and sting. The kind of tears that feel like they're coming from a place deep inside you. A place you didn't even know existed. And in that moment I felt like I would never be whole again. Like a part of me had been taken and I wasn't sure I could ever get it back. But that's the thing about heartbreak. It doesn't just break you, it reshapes you. It forces you to face parts of yourself that you didn't even know existed. And though it feels like you're drowning, eventually you find the surface again. And that's when I realized I didn't need him to be whole. I didn't need his love to feel complete. I had myself. I had my future. I had my strength. It wasn't going to be easy. And I wasn't going to forget him. But I was going to let go. Let go of the man who had loved me. And then walked away. And maybe, just maybe, I would find myself again. Forgiveness is one of the hardest things a person can do. It's not because we don't want to forgive, but because we're terrified of what forgiving might mean. When you forgive someone, you let them back in. You allow them the possibility of hurting you again. And that's terrifying. But forgiveness isn't for the other person. It's for you. It's for the weight you carry that prevents you from moving forward. I didn't know if I was ready to forgive Ethan. I didn't know if I ever would. But I did know one thing. I couldn't keep carrying the anger. I couldn't keep carrying the resentment. Because it was killing me from the inside out. It's been 2 months since everything fell apart. 2 months since I found out about the affair. 2 months since I kicked Ethan out of our apartment. But no matter how much I tried to move on, no matter how many nights I cried myself to sleep, I couldn't erase him from my life. He was there, lingering in the corners of my thoughts. In the empty space beside me in the bed. In the places where we used to be happy. I thought I was ready to move on. I thought I could just close the door and walk away. But the truth is, I wasn't ready for the silence that followed. One morning, I woke up early as I often did now. The apartment was quiet still, the way it had been since Ethan left. I hadn't heard from him in weeks. And part of me was relieved, but another part of me felt an emptiness I couldn't explain. I knew Ethan was struggling. He had tried calling me a few times, but I had ignored every call, every text. I couldn't talk to him. Not yet. But that morning I picked up my phone. I don't know why. Maybe I was tired of the silence. Maybe I was just tired of pretending I didn't care. I scrolled through my contacts and found his name. I hesitated for a moment, my thumb hovering over the call button. I knew I could keep ignoring him. I could keep punishing him for the hurt he caused. But what would that solve? What would that bring me? More anger? More pain? I took a deep breath. And I pressed call. The phone rang, and for the first time in weeks I felt my heart pound in my chest. He picked up after the third ring. Sophia. His voice was quiet, unsure. It sounded like he'd been waiting for this moment for a long time. Ethan, I said, my voice steady. I've been thinking a lot about everything. About you, about me, about us. There was a long pause and I could hear the sound of him exhaling. I imagined him sitting there waiting, hoping I would say the words he was afraid to hear. I'm not ready to forgive you, I said. But I'm ready to stop hating you. There was silence on the other end of the line. Ethan didn't speak for what felt like an eternity. I wondered if he had even heard me. But then his voice came through, hoarse and shaky. Sophia, I don't deserve your forgiveness. I don't deserve anything from you. His words were full of regret, full of the guilt I had seen in his eyes so many times before. I don't know if I can forgive you yet, Ethan, I said softly. But I'm done carrying this anger. I'm done carrying this pain. You've hurt me, but I can't keep letting you do it. I need to move on for me. There was a long pause. And then he said, I love you, Sophia. I always will. No matter what happens. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. He knew. I knew. And maybe that was enough. Healing isn't a straight line. It's a curve. A winding path that twists and turns, some days leading you backward, others pulling you forward. After the confrontation with Ethan, I thought I would be okay. I thought that once I said everything I needed to say, the pain would go away. But it didn't. It lingered. And I had to face it again and again until I could finally let it go. It wasn't easy. Not by a long shot. I cried more times than I could count. I lay awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I would ever feel whole again. Wondering if I would ever stop hearing his voice in my head. But there were small victories along the way. Little moments that showed me I was healing even if I couldn't see it at first. I started going for walks again. Simple, quiet walks in the park. At first it felt strange. The silence was overwhelming and I was constantly haunted by the memory of our time together. But little by little the world started to feel like it was mine again. I started to notice the beauty around me, the sunlight filtering through the trees, the sound of birds chirping in the morning. I started reading again. Books had always been my escape, but after everything with Ethan, I had lost the will to even pick one up. But one afternoon I sat down with a novel I had left unfinished for months, and for the first time in a long while, I felt something stir inside me. A spark of life. A reminder that there was more to me than the pain. I found myself laughing again too. Not in the same way I had with Ethan, not that carefree laugh that I'd shared with him. But I laughed with my friends, with Benji, with people who loved me. I began to realize that laughter wasn't something Ethan gave me. It was something I could create on my own. And then came the day when I woke up and didn't think about him. Not in the same way I had for so many months. I didn't wonder if he was okay. I didn't wonder if he missed me. I just lived. And that was the moment I knew I was healing. Because I didn't need him anymore. I didn't need his validation. I didn't need his love to feel complete. I started to dream again. Not of a future with him, but of a future I could build on my own. I thought about going back to school. I thought about a career. I thought about traveling, seeing the world I had been too afraid to explore. For the first time in a long time I was excited about my own future. Benji had been my anchor through it all. Every time I thought I couldn't go on, I saw his face and I remembered why I had to. He was growing up, becoming more independent, and I was proud of the young man he was becoming. But he still needed me. And I still needed him. We started planning little trips together, just the two of us. We went to the zoo, to the beach, to the little cafe around the corner. We didn't need grand gestures. We just needed each other. And slowly I began to realize that my world was no longer defined by Ethan and the pain he caused. It was defined by me, by my choices, and by the love I had for my brother, my family, and myself. The healing wasn't perfect. I still had moments when I missed Ethan, when I questioned whether I made the right decision. But those moments became fewer and farther apart. The sadness started to fade, replaced by a quiet strength that I didn't even know I had. It's funny. When I was with Ethan, I thought I needed him to complete me. I thought I couldn't survive without him. But now I realized that I was always complete. I was always whole. I just had to find that part of me again. And I did. I found it in the quiet moments. In the laughter. In the sunrises that were waiting for me every day. In the love I had for myself, for Benji, and for everything that was yet to come. I wasn't who I used to be. And I wasn't who I wanted to be with Ethan. I was who I was always meant to be, Sophia. There's a moment in every story where the past starts to lose its grip on you. When the pain fades and the weight of what happened starts to lift. And for the first time in a long time you realize you're free. That moment came for me in a way I never expected. It didn't come with fireworks or dramatic gestures. It wasn't a grand revelation or an earth-shattering decision. It came quietly in the soft light of a Sunday morning, when I woke up and realized I wasn't thinking about Ethan. I wasn't wondering what he was doing. I wasn't missing him. And I wasn't holding on to the pain anymore. I got out of bed that morning, not with the heavy heart I'd carried for so long, but with a lightness I hadn't felt in years. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was waiting for something to happen. I wasn't waiting for someone to come back. I was living my life right then, right there. Benji and I started planning more trips. Not to escape but to explore. We went to the mountains for the weekend, hiking and laughing and talking about the future. I started looking at houses for us, imagining a home where we could both grow. Work had become something I was proud of again. I was no longer just working to fill the void. I was building something for myself, a future that was mine and mine alone. I made new friends, ones who knew the real me. Not the broken version of me that had existed before, but the one who was finally starting to heal. I learned that real love doesn't come from someone else. It comes from within. Comes from learning to love yourself first. There were moments, of course. Moments when I would hear a song that reminded me of him. Or when I would walk past the coffee shop where we used to sit together. And I would feel a brief flash of pain, but it was different now. It didn't consume me. It didn't stop me from moving forward. I wasn't afraid anymore. I wasn't afraid of being alone. I wasn't afraid of making mistakes. I wasn't afraid of what the future might bring because for the first time in a long time, I trusted myself. I started dreaming again. Not of a life with Ethan but a life with me. I dreamed of building a future where I could be happy, where I could be proud of who I had become. And I wasn't waiting for anyone else to make it happen. I was making it happen. I realized something important. I had already found the love I was looking for. I found it in myself. I found it in Benji. And I found it in the world that was still waiting for me, full of possibilities. I didn't need Ethan anymore. I didn't need anyone to validate my worth. I knew who I was now. And I was ready to embrace my future, on my own terms. That's what a new beginning is, isn't it? It's not about erasing the past. It's about finding the strength to move forward with everything you've learned. It's about trusting that even after the hardest of times, the best is still to come. And so I walked forward. Into the future, into the unknown. Knowing that no matter what, I was going to be okay. Better than okay. I was going to be me.